Or are we just going straight in? Hello?
We'll be with you in a second.
We'll be with you in just a couple of minutes. Hi everyone, I'm Julian and this is Skybet and Gaming's virtual career spotlight. Skybet is one of the UK's leading online betting and gaming businesses. We're based out of Yorkshire and we have offices in Leeds, Sheffield and Solihull. Our teams design, build and maintain products such as Skybet, Sky Vegas, Sky Poker, Sky Bingo and free-to-play games like Super 6. Our virtual career spotlight series focuses on a different team from across the business each week, and it's your opportunity to hear from our experts. We want this to be an interactive session, so please drop any questions that you have in the comments box and we'll try and answer as many of these as we can towards the end. Today's spotlight is on software engineering, and joining me we have Tanja Lichtensteiger and Saneet Bhella. How are you doing, guys?
Hi, really
Hello.
good.
I'll let you both introduce yourselves to our listeners. Saneet, would you like to go first?
Yes, I'm Saneet. I'm a software engineer in Bet Promotions. Our squad look after a few services, notably Skybet Club, which is the flagship promotion offering by Skybet, where when you bet £25 each week, you get a £5 free bet the following week. We also look after football notifications. These are the in-play notifications you can get during matches, so like goals, kickoffs, red cards, etc. We also look after popular bets, so you can see these scattered across the website. So on the home page or the football page or horse racing page, those are like a tally of the bets with an algorithm to kind of dictate the popularity. And then we also got it's also displayed on the bet receipt, where it's kind of an engine that displays the popular bets based on the outcomes that you've just placed on. We've also got the opt-in promotions. These are the landing pages where a customer can opt into a promotion and offer essentially like a bet 10 get Y promotion, and we configure the system behind that essentially. I've been at Skybet for 2.5 years now, although it's gone quite quickly actually. But you know, I've experienced quite a bit here. What attracted me to Skybet is the culture. It's a really fun place to work. There's a lot of great people here. There's no egos. There's no dictators. You're really in control of your destiny and how you want to drive things forward. Your tools and technologies. It's a really fantastic place to work. It was also a chance to work on the Skybet product. Skybet is one of the leading bookmakers in the UK. So it was an exciting opportunity to work on the Skybet product. It's used by obviously many people, so it was one of the things that I really wanted to do, to develop software for people that that's used by a lot of people essentially. There's also varied technologies at Skybet, so I wasn't just coming in to just be like a PHP developer or like a Node.js developer. You get to work on a lot of different technologies and learn a lot of different things. So that kind of attracted me to Skybet, and also the work kind of aligned with what I wanted to do as a developer essentially. It was, I wanted to create web systems, create and do a lot of front end work, but do back end work. I didn't want to just be a particular work in a particular area. And I think, you know, the role at, you know, software engineering role, definitely at Skybet, you know, there's different roles to cater that. And, you know, that was another reason why I wanted to work here.
Tanja?
Cool. Hi. So I'm Tanja Lichtensteiger. I'm engineering manager here in Skybet. I've been here for over 2 years now, although it feels great because I feel quite a good sense of belonging. So what do I do? How do I explain this? So I come with almost 2 decades of software engineering because I started as a software engineer, but my role has changed very much now. It's very much building high-performing squads, ensuring that they have everything they need to solve the problems that we give them, remove the blockers. I'm kind of like, I oil the wheels, or, you know, the shadow behind the curtain, making sure things happen, making sure the squads get everything they need, that they get, you know, the training they need, that the conversations happen. It's everything aiming to build good solutions, but also good technologists. I know I have the responsibility for everybody as a talent and their career progression. So that kind of leads up nicely to why I was attracted to Skybet. So when I was approached, I knew working in Leeds for a long time that Skybet was working with technology that other companies just were maybe 5-10 years behind from, and I wanted to go closer to the bleeding edge. We're not bleeding edge, but we're a lot closer to it than most people. And so that attracted me, as well as talent attract talent. There were great people moving to Skybet at that point, and I was like, oh, I'd love to work with them. I'd love to learn from them. And that pulled me there. And following up a little bit of what Sunny said is that Skybet gave me, because as a software engineer, I like to solve problems. And it gave me a problem that I couldn't see in any other company, at least in Leeds and most of the UK, was building software to a massive scale. So because we're very event driven, we'll get, you know, when there's a score on the football, like a goal, suddenly everybody's logging into our system within a span of a couple of seconds. It's getting hammered. How do we solve that? And here in Skybet, I'm part of that solution and I can help solve it, which is really, really great. And this is the stuff of the problems that other systems and scale look at, like Facebook and Twitter. You know, this is quite interesting challenges. Anyway.
Thanks for that, guys. Sonny, like you in your introduction, you talk about all the different, you know, sort of technologies, and it really sounds like you knew what you wanted. It's always like difficult to know what you want to do in life and what kind of career path you want to go down. So what was it about, you know, becoming a software engineer that, you know, particularly appealed to you?
Well, I'll talk about how I got into this role. Weirdly enough, it started when I was in secondary school, quite a long while back. I've always kind of been interested in technology. You know, I know I wanted to work. You know, you start to think about where you want to go, like, you know, during the latter parts of your secondary school. And I know I wanted to work in computers, in an IT field essentially. So I mean, I got my first smartphone in secondary school, and that was the driving factor in me wanting to be a software engineer. I wanted to create I didn't have an app idea, but I wanted to learn how to create apps. And so I thought, you know, software engineering seems like that role that will allow me to develop apps essentially. And you know, long and behold, I've stuck with it, and I've been to uni. I'm not a native developer. It's not what I do. It's a different direction from what I wanted to do in the first place. But that was the main influence behind me in becoming a software engineer. You know, the main thing I really love about you know, software engineering is the problem solving aspect of it. You've got, you know, a problem, you've got an issue. How do you solve this problem? You know, that appeals to me, and you know, you get quite engaged in your role essentially, because you know, a lot of your day is different problems and solving them essentially. So that's the main things that kind of appeal to me about software engineering.
Yeah. So it was a game Snake 2 then, was it? I got you into.
I think we were quite advanced then. It wasn't that bad.
I remember that. That was good fun.
So yeah, you say, you know, your days are spent solving problems. What, can you give us a bit more insight? What does a typical day entail for a software engineer at Skybet?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're doing really. So if you're delivering new features, it could be like a new service, or building on top of an existing service. You're involved in like the planning of that. So you'll be creating tickets, as part of a squad. Deciding what needs doing, and then on top of that, so that obviously doesn't happen every day, but a lot of the times you will be creating tickets and fleshing them out at least, and then after that you'll be scoping your tickets, so adding acceptance criteria, giving some test analysis, how do you test it, then the main part, you're developing the ticket, so coding it, as part of, if you're working on a project, be code, or as part of your team, you'll be code reviewing, and then there's some testing. So as devs, we don't there are testers in the team, but where applicable, devs also test as well, and it gives you a different mindset to, because when you're developing, you have one set of mindset, but when you're a tester, you have a different mindset. So it's good to have that testing mindset and a different viewpoint to developing, essentially, and it changes the way you develop, I think. After that, we'll be releasing code. So that's related to like doing creating a new service, but we also support our current system. So ensuring every day I come into work and I'll monitor our systems from the day before, and especially the weekend, because obviously the weekend traffic is a lot higher. So it's looking at your services, checking are they working efficiently. So you'll be looking at your graphs, you're monitoring. I tend to do that most every day, just to see if there's any bottlenecks, if there's any issues. Other than that, you'd also be patching your services. So are you getting the latest security updates and bug fixes? And then also, on top of that, the library bug fixes, but you've also got, actual code bug fixes. So fixing issues that people have reported, or that you found. And then outside of, the actual software engineering role, of the development and getting new features out, which is kind of externally to the squad, you might be involved in like meetings to improve technologies and tooling, ways of working, improve code quality and health, of your tech stack. So those are kind of regular meetings every week to kind of improve the state of the software engineering, you could say, at Skybet.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the challenges that you face?
I think engineering a good system is probably the biggest one. I think it's quite difficult to do that. You don't often always get it right. You want to create a system that is maintainable, something that when you're leaving it for developers down the line in a few years' time, they should be able to pick things up, understand what's going on. Code should be self-documenting. They should be able to pick up and make changes. We don't want to build a hack. You want to build, you don't want to build a monolithic application where, you just to upgrade, certain libraries, you've got to take, the whole system down. You want to build something that you can take down quite easily, bring back up quite easily, and that is easy to develop with, essentially. Say engineering a good system is a challenge. As what Tanja said, also building to scale, that's also quite challenging. I think at first you don't tend to get things right. You'll build the system, you'll load test it prior, but it's only when you get actual traffic coming towards it that you actually start to understand what your application can do and what can it handle. Real traffic is the true test to your application. So building to scale is quite difficult, and working with legacy systems as well, I think. So you have a lot of applications that have been developed over the years, and people move on from the role, people move on from the squad, people leave the company. So you're left with this application where you've inherited it, and you've got to work with it. It's old, it can be difficult to develop with. Obviously, technology changes over time, so it can be quite difficult to develop with because the tools weren't quite there back then. Working with legacy systems is quite difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So Yeah, externally we can be perceived as, you know, a sports business. Ultimately, our sports book is our product, but we like to see ourselves as a technology business. Would you say it was important to have like an interest in sport to work at Skybet as an engineer?
Uh, Definitely not. There's a lot of people that don't like sport here. Like I often, as a avid football fan myself, I often try often speaking to football, but it's only with a select few people because there's not many people that actually do really take a keen interest into sport. But you don't have to like sport to work here. I think the main thing is that you have an interest in software engineering. You know, like if you do enjoy sport, it's a bonus. Really, it makes things a lot more interesting and enjoyable. But mainly, as I said, just if as long as you enjoy software engineering and you have an interest in that, you'll be able to learn you'll be able to learn with the events that happen and all the business processes around it. But yeah, wouldn't say you have to like sport to be a software engineer.
Yeah. And go on, you might as well tell our listeners who you support
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Woo!
then. Obviously, you're working on the sportsbook side, so you work for our Bet Tribe, who look after the Skybet website and the Skybet app. How does the sporting calendar affect your work?
Yes, so when you're particularly like, let's say, Christmas time or start of season, you might be developing a new feature or a new service towards that time of the year. But it's not always the case. But you tend to deliver the features around then because there's an increase in traffic, so you probably want to take advantage of that. But especially things like Grand National and Cheltenham, where the traffic is quite high, you might not necessarily be developing, some new features around then, especially like high risk changes and stuff. The idea is like that time of the year where Grand National and Cheltenham happens is there's a lot of traffic. So operationally, you want to make sure that you're stable. You're not creating any bugs or issues. You want to ensure that you've got a good service and for the traffic that you're getting, essentially. So keeping things up to date, making sure they're patched, making sure they're scaled up so you can deal with the demand. So the workload differs towards the certain events, essentially.
Yeah, and there are so many great sporting events over the year. So like, what do you look forward to the most?
For me, it is Cheltenham. I mean, you probably know about this, to be honest. Like, I think most people would probably vouch for it, but for me, yeah, Cheltenham is the one I look forward to the most. It's a 4-day affair, so it's not just one day. It's 4 days during the week, during work time. And it's a real great vibe in the office. We get breakfast and snacks provided during the week. We get the pre race presentations. Everyone's really kind of focused towards providing a good service, essentially. When if you're responsible for the operational side, they all kind of group together into one area, and there's just a good laugh, really, just monitoring graphs and ensuring things are up and running, essentially. But yeah, when that first race kicks off in the office, it goes quiet for a second, and it's a real weird one. But no, it's definitely the event I look forward to the most.
Yeah. What about you, Tanya?
For me, I'm gonna just say the same thing as Sunny. Cheltenham, it's like no other event. I know we have the start of the season with football, but Cheltenham over those 4 days, the air is quite electric. Everyone's quite excited. People are watching the races as well, so you might be watching it with your squad while you're doing some work. Um, we do get a lot of treats during that week as well, like Sunny says. Yeah, and weirdly enough, because I'm one of those people who love to see how our systems perform. Like Sunny, building a quality system is very a high priority for us. Quality system and to scale. And Cheltenham is a proper test of our engineering. And half of me wants to see how far it can be pushed I'm probably sure my CTO and my heads don't want me to say this, but I just want, like, how far can it go until it breaks? It's slightly chaos engineering for me. I'm like, so it's a bit of that, and also the sport itself. Cheltenham really is a true test of our engineering, and if we can do Cheltenham, we know we can do the Grand National usually. Well, always, really. So there you go.
And what's a busier time for us? Is it Cheltenham or Boxing Day football?
I think my service people is going to get mad at me. I think it might.
I don't know if I want to answer this question. I think it's. I'd say it's Cheltenham.
I'll say it's Cheltenham.
It's a four.
I might be wrong.
if you're as an acute, a total of the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for people that don't know what technologies we use, could we share a bit of insight on that? Like what we're using at the moment? Obviously, we're early adopters of new technology. So, kind of what do we use and where are we headed?
Yes. So, I mean, as an overview of what, the technologies involved in my squad alone, we use AWS, we have Kubernetes, we use Kafka, our front end is, powered by React, we've got Node.js, we use Terraform, we use TypeScript, we have Docker, we use Prometheus, Chef, we have PHP, we use Jenkins, and there's an array of technology. That's just within my squad. Like you're not, as I said before, you're not coming in to just do one technology. There's lots to learn. There's lots to know. And then even external to the squad, I think there's Kotlin. This is something we will be adopting in our coming project soon. There's Go, there's Scala, there's GraphQL. There's just a magnitude of technologies here really. And in terms of the direction we're going, I think Tanja will probably have a different idea of this, but we're early adopters of Kubernetes essentially. So containerization is the direction I think we're going in. So say we use Kubernetes to orchestrate our containers essentially, and we're doing it in a way that we can just build and deploy applications. So we don't. So gone are the days, I think, now where you have a DevOps per squad and they configure your servers. The idea of Kubernetes is that you can just kind of build and deploy applications without fuss. The minimal effort setting it up. The software engineer just wants to create applications to develop to get out to customers and get customers using it. We don't really want to be setting up all the networking and firewalls and stuff, but Kubernetes kind of mitigates a lot of that stuff. So I think that is we adopt it, and I think that's the direction I think we're going in quite a bit.
So I think the problems that we have, the challenges, dictate the solutions, would dictate kind of the technologies. I agree. Everything that Saneet said is spot on. So we are looking at containerization. We're looking at so for me, it's always about the right tools. We're never set like, oh, it's only just this. It's like, well, could we do this better? What else is out there? We're putting a lot of emphasis because as we've been growing, our technology ecosystem is growing. Maintenance is quite important, while at the same time we're trying to do really fast releases of new features. Well, we're also focusing on what brings ease to our engineers, what makes their lives easier, and that's what we're also investing in. So like containerization, it's a key tool for us in scale as well. So I never say like, oh, it's this technology. I say when we hit the challenge, it'll be the right technology we'll be looking at out there. And because of the vast amount of experience and knowledge we have in our squads, in the talent, in the people, we know that if we think we need to use technology ABC, we might not know about it, but we can invest the time to learn, and if it's appropriate, bring it in. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the business is currently operating on a full remote working policy, obviously due to COVID-19. But how has the current situation affected or changed the way that you guys work?
Yeah, working from home, different. It's a different environment altogether, I think. Obviously, you've been going to work every day for most of your life. Yeah, obviously, we do have a work from home You can work from home, when you request it. But I mean, for me myself, I could probably count under 10 times I've worked from home, to be honest. Like I generally like being in the office. I like the separation of, home being home and work being work. And for me, it took a while to adjust to that reality of the fact that I'll be working from home quite a bit now. And yeah, so it's not the ideal environment I wanted, but I think I'm quite used to it now. And socially, it's a lot different now. So where you could have chats with friends, you can't necessarily have that anymore. There's different, your friends from the different squads. It's not that fluid. It's a bit different now. Even asking for help is you could just walk over to someone's desk and go, can I pester you for a second? It's all via Slack and Zoom now. So the communication and collaboration, I think, is a lot different. We obviously communicating by Zoom. I'm sure you've had the issue where you're kind of interrupting each other. You're both speaking at the exact same time. The response times, it's a bit different. You kind of gauge body language a bit more in person. So I think it's all a matter of getting used to it, really. And we've done it for so long now. I think we're all quite used to it. And I think the main thing is to try and keep the same routine. So that's what I've done. I come into work at set time. It's always been the same. I switch on my computer at the exact same time. It's always the same. I do the exact same work. It's keeping that routine, really. And if you stretch away from that, I think it impacts your working, I think. But in terms of my responsibilities as a software engineer, really, not a lot has changed. And you really question whether you need to be in the office a lot, because I think with the creative talking side of things, when you're planning a project, or you need you're planning a project and it requires multiple squads and teams, that collaboration probably is a lot easier when you're in the office. But in terms of the actual responsibilities as a software engineer to get code out there, that doesn't really change, and a lot of the processes haven't really changed as well. And I think you can do that remotely. As I said, you question whether do we need to be in the office as much as we've been in the past. But yeah.
And what about from a people management perspective, Tanja?
Yeah, well, it's been a really big learning curve. I know before I joined Skybet, I looked at my future and I said, at one point, I would like to be working with distributed teams. I just didn't expect it to be in Skybet, and we are now where we are. So I'm definitely leveling up on that skill that I wanted. Like, how do we handle and maintain high-performing squads when everyone's in different locations? So definitely get that learning. But I've adapted a lot quicker than I thought I would. I think for most people, the first few weeks were a bit rough because suddenly we were all mobilizing. Everyone work from home right now. How are you set up? So I was checking in with like all my engineers. So like, how's your work set up? Do you have a desk? Some people didn't have desks. They were working from their bedrooms. And then I said, okay, well, how can we get you a chair? How can we get you the tools you need? So it was a lot of that for the first few weeks. And then when everyone settled into it and everyone seemed to have everything they needed, it was then working on we work on communication all the time, but I really focused on the communication. And there's a couple of things I've learned, that things can get lost in translation when you're communicating over Slack or Zoom. And the one thing I tell people now is assume positive intent. Assume positive intent from everybody you're communicating with, because it's hard when you're not with them. You can't tell the synergy. It's like, what do they mean? Or things can be, like I say, lost in translation. You might feel like, oh, this is not what I expected. And it really is just a conversation, because sometimes when things are written out in Slack or an email, it's never the same as face to face. So assume positive intent is one tip I give everybody now. And I'm having to be a lot more explicit with my own communication, because sometimes I just walk into a squad when we're in the office, and it just takes a couple of words and everyone knows exactly what I mean. But now it's more like, okay, do you understand what situation we're in, what expectations are? And I feel that helps, and I think people appreciate that. And I never assume. I ask questions, because before, when I walked into my office, I can see how everyone is. Now I have to listen out for a bit of a sniffle to see, Are you unwell? Is something okay? You know, should you be like, why don't you go sit down somewhere, have a cup of tea, get some bed rest? You know, these little things that you can easily miss working remotely. I check in a lot more often now to my people. They're probably sick of hearing from me every day, because usually I'll be like, yeah, they're fine. It's like, no, this is Tanya just doing a check-in. Okay. But besides that, I've seen some really good positives as well. Like the lack of commute has helped a lot of people, myself included. But it's nice to see, you know, engineers invest that time to things that they do care about, like relationships with their children, instead of sitting in on a train for 2 hours. So that gives me quite a bit of, yeah, we're okay. We'll be fine. We're gonna get the positives out of this. Yes, there's challenges, but that's only because we're adapting. And I truly believe that, you know, this is not going to be forever. You know, there will be moments where we can meet up in cafes, and we'll still have the same sense of belonging, really.
Yeah. I agree with you know, a lot of what you both said, and I think for me it was around keeping structure in your day. I definitely miss talking to all the different people across the whole business. I definitely miss like corridor chats and just popping my head into different teams and sitting myself down and just, you know, having chats away from work and just, you know, just finding out more about you know, the people that I work with. So that's something that I definitely miss. Um, this is a question probably more about imparting some wisdom, and I get asked quite a lot, you know, for like graduate events or career events and things like that. But you know, in the tech industry, there are so many different programming languages for anyone who's looking to get into software engineering. What language would you recommend or advise them to start with?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what you're doing. I think so. You know, if you're if you want to become a native developer, you know, if you want to become an Android developer, you'll be doing Kotlin or Java. If you're gonna be an iOS developer, you're picking up Swift. If you want to become a web developer, you know, you'll be doing your HTML, CSS, and your JavaScript. So it really depends on what language, or sorry, what you're doing really. But for me, as a personal recommendation, I do recommend a statically typed language. You know, something like C++, Java or Kotlin. For me, I think it's good to learn the fundamentals really behind a language, or behind software engineering in general, really. So learning about types, learning about the different programming paradigms. I feel like, you know, a dynamically typed language like, you know, PHP or JavaScript, they are syntactically, you know, a bit easier to kind of code, but at the same time they can get you confused because, you know, you don't have that strong, you know, typing really, and a lot of the errors and issues you get don't really happen, you know, at compile time. It happens at runtime really. So it can be a bit confusing. So for me to learn the true basics, I think learning a statically typed language, you know, really helps your knowledge really.
Well, I'm gonna more or less reiterate what Sunny says, is because if you build something, you're building a subject. What is that? Is it an app? Okay, for what phone? Or are you wanting to build something that requires a database? You know, you have to look at that. It's that interest that should help define what program language you should pick up. Like, last thing you want is to pick up a program language that won't help you build what you actually want to build. So I know that's one way to say it. And again, Sunny is right. You know, learn the fundamentals. Those are really good recommendations. But I will go out there and say, just because I'm a bit of a fan, I really like Ruby. It is a very beautiful language. It's not that hard to pick up, I think. Someone tell me. So yes, do your Java, do your Kotlin. But if you have a moment, have a look at Ruby. I think it's quite beautiful. So
I'll stop advising people to learn Python then.
I quite like Python too. But no, maybe don't start.
Getting involved and just pick up something really. I think even then that's still a good enough start, to be honest.
And Sonny, you're still relatively early on in your career, so just reflecting back, you know, is there anything that you wish you'd known now? Well, what do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
I think it's just persist with it. You eventually get it. I think at the time when I my first exposure to software engineering was actually, my degree, really, like starting my degree. And at first I didn't really know if it was for me. I did have the ambition and that, the idea that I wanted to learn how to create an app, but at first you pick it up and you're like, oh, right, this is it's not as easy as it seems, really. So there's a lot of people, I think, that on my degree that are quite exposed to it prior to uni. So you look at them and go, they seem quite competent already, and you're not really that knowledgeable in it. But you eventually get it, really. Like if I look at myself, now, if I could see myself in the future, I was like, now you can build, X, Y, and Z, really, and you can deploy this application, and it's like you just eventually get it, really. So stick with it. I think if you switch in careers, if you want to become a software engineer, pick a language, stick with it, spend some time learning it. You'll eventually get it, and yeah, you can become a software engineer, really.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree a lot with what Sunny says. I have my own thing, but I do want to agree what Sunny says, just to emphasize it is, it's not about who's best, it's who lasts. And it very much is that resilience. Like, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard is very, very true, because I've seen great software engineers just fall out of love with software engineering and the industry just because of small hurdles. That resilience is not to be underestimated. And like Sunny, I know, we've all had challenges, like I have had in my career, and you just like tackle them with such a positive attitude, and the fact that you're just going to put your investment and effort in it, you're just going to go a lot farther than the people who you may think is the best, where in comparison. So but if I had to what I wish I knew is that maybe a bit again, you may be an amazing software engineer or senior software engineer or lead software engineer or engineering manager, and your technology might be on point, but your project usually doesn't fail because of technology or that building. It's going to fail because of people and poor collaboration. And I think people underestimate how important that is when you do your projects. And I kind of wish when I was starting out my career that I emphasized more of that, spent more of my time like I spent a lot of my time coding nonstop most of my day, but I feel like if I spent at least a quarter of my day building relationships, building those communication bridges, a lot of my projects would have gone a lot smoother, because everyone seemed to understand what everyone was doing. And I do think that you should take a moment and do more. It was definitely a skill I had to learn and improve on quite a lot many years later. If you started with that first, you'll be starting on the right foot as well.
Yeah, cool. And finally, before we go to a few questions from our listeners, what would you say are the best things of being a software engineer at Skybet?
For me, it's being able to work on delivering software features that are used by many customers. I think that I really enjoy that. I like being able to show my family and friends, this is what I've done, and that it's a nice kick, to be honest. So having developing features that for customers, really, that really is the best thing at Skybet, and you've got many customers at Skybet. So yeah. I'd also say there's so much to do here. Not to make it sound overwhelming, but there's a variety of projects, and there's a lot of work that can be done, and that's a really good thing as an engineer, because I've been here for 2.5 years, but it doesn't feel like that. It goes so quickly. Your days go so quickly because you're always doing something. I don't think I've ever sat down on a day and had a quiet day, to be honest. Like there's always things to be done, and for me, yeah, that I really love that. At Skybet, I don't know about other companies, but there is a lot here to do, basically. I'd also say the learning development, I think, so they really kind of stress about learning and becoming, being a better individual, really. And they give you the opportunity as well, to learn. We have internal training. There's often knowledge shares. We have Friday learning and development, Friday afternoon learning and development. So they really do stress on really want you to become a better person, really. So I'd say those are the best things of being a software engineer at Skybet.
Tanja, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's more or less it. I guess I'd say the people as well. The people that make it. What you build today, it will be great for a few years, 10 years, 20 years if you're lucky. Hopefully we are. But what's great is the impact you make with the people you work with, because they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. And I do feel quite happy to be working with an amazing group of people. So they help shape me too.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I'll just have a look at some of the questions from our listeners. We have one from Andy here, which says, how do you handle software deployments throughout the company and different teams?
I think most teams are the same, really. We use Jenkins to deploy our stuff. So it doesn't really differ, really. But I think it depends on what you're deploying. I think you'll have different processes, but we use Jenkins, and all of our deployments go through that, really.
Yeah, we have shared tooling and shared platforms that we rely on to work amidst our team.
Yeah, I've got another one from Sunil, which says, could you please let me know your hiring process? Well, that was for me. We advertise all our career opportunities on our career site. You just have to put in an application in there, and one of our talent partners will get in touch. We are quite flexible in our interview process, so we have the traditional route where you come in, you do a tech test, and you have a face-to-face interview. At the moment, we are obviously doing remote hiring as well, where we'll do virtual interviews. But we also do a new initiative where you can spend the day with us as an engineer, and that essentially is your interview. So there are a few ways, but I'm happy to chat to you if you are interested. We have one from Rachel Saunders, which says, and this might be more for the native squad, but I've been learning Swift for over a year. Which frameworks of Swift would you recommend to learn for an aspiring iOS dev at Skybet Gaming?
That's probably not my department, so that's not something I can answer, to be honest.
Yeah, can we get Rachel's contact details, and we'll get back to her, because I specialize in back-end engineering more than native. So apologies, sorry for offending all the native engineers out there, but I like my platforms.
Rachel, I'll get back to you separately. And I think that's all the questions that we have today. Once again, guys, just want to say a massive thank you for talking to us. It's been really insightful. It's really clear that you guys are passionate about what you do and about working at Skybet. So just want to say a big thank you again, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today.
No, thanks very much, Julian, for the invite.
Thank you.
And well done, Saneet. Yay! Good.